You were just involved in a car accident in the street. You were walking, you were jogging, you were running, and you think you have a problem. My name is Dallin Fuchs. I'm a trial attorney practicing civil litigation in the state of New York, and I want to talk to you about your accident. A lot of people think that just because they perhaps were not crossing the street at a crosswalk, or they were crossing against a light, or they crossed between two parked cars, that they don't have a case. Well, I'm here to tell you that with respect to your accident, it's a very common type of accident, and you very well still may have a case. The defendant, the driver that was driving the car that struck you, still has an obligation to use reasonable care, even if you're not acting perfectly while you're crossing the street. Let me tell you about how we've solved this problem in a couple of recent cases. We had one recent case, for example, where a person was crossing the street. They weren't in the crosswalk, and they weren't crossing with the light. But as the facts came out, and as we did our investigation, we realized, and the proof showed, that the person was almost completely across the street in broad daylight, in perfect view, with no obstructions at the time that they were hit by a car. So the car had more than reasonable time to act appropriately with reasonable care and not strike the pedestrian being any person that's walking or running or jogging on foot. So in that case, we're able to show that the defendant, the driver of the vehicle, was substantially at fault for the accident. Another common problem, and this may be your problem, is that either a witness or a police report may say, hey, you came into the street between two parked cars. The implication being that the driver had no time to react. Well, again, we had this problem in a recent situation, and it turned out that our client did cross between two parked cars, but again, they were almost entirely across the street when the accident happened, and the accident really was substantially the fault of the driver. In another situation, it was also true that our client went into the street between two parked cars, but as it turned out, they were just waiting there a couple feet from the parked cars, waiting for traffic to pass for 1 or 2 full minutes without any incident whatsoever, when suddenly a vehicle that was inattentive, that wasn't paying attention, struck our client. In both of these cases, it was the defendant that was responsible. So you've had an accident like this, and you think you have a problem, but it's a solvable problem, and in fact, the driver of the vehicle very well may be substantially or completely at fault for your accident. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this is because you've most likely been in this type of accident, and you need answers to questions. Call me. I'm here to answer your questions. I'm Dallin Fuchs. Thank you so much for watching.